Hey everybody, what's going on? We're going to do some artwork this morning. We're going to do some landscape work. You can see it here on screen. Give me a minute to do my updates and my social media posts and stuff. We don't get the link until we go live, so most of the time you'll see stay tuned or starting soon button. But that's because we're scrambling here in the background to grab the hyperlink and get things uploaded so that we can announce that we are live to people that are watching. So give me a hot second here while I catch up on that, and you can skip ahead a minute and we'll get into the artwork. But for those that are trapped with me in space-time here now, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish them online, and currently we are doing some landscape illustration. This is using Bob Ross' style of wet-on-wet techniques in a digital space. Let's see. I'm on the wrong section here, and let's bring that. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to bring that forward. And yeah, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications when we're live in the future. I do a lot of D&D content. Here's a bunch of books for D&D that I've created that are on the DMsGuild. They all have free previews. Please check them out. They're chock full of my art and ideas. And if you're a D&D enthusiast, you think these things add value to your campaigns in the future, consider making some purchases to encourage similar behavior in the future. So we made this corner piece, I guess, for lack of a better word, this bend in the water that's coming around here. So we have this. We now need to make a reflection out of it. So let's see. I've got flower tips. I can add this to the flower tips just to keep it contained. Clip, clip, clip. So we have our foreground flowers, and then we have high grass, the rocks that we added, shrubbery, the tree line, and then the embankment itself, and that's what we have behind it. Bump, 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 done. So now we want to build the reflections of this, and we have a reflection layer down here. That seems like a good spot for this. So I'm going to grab all of this. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to bundle it. Bundle. Let's drop this down here. So now we have this reflection. We're going to free transform. Where's my free transform option? There we go. Free transform. And then flip vertical. And then we'll take this down to reflections. No, that's mountains. Reflections here. So let's open that. Far line, which is back here. Now I want to grab this. We'll call this right. And now we can work it. So we have this backward bend here that looks upside down that we're going to have to contend with. But let's first take this to here. You know what? Honestly, let's chop it up. So let's go back up to here. Let's conceal this, and I'm going to conceal the. I'm going trying to do treetops. Thank you. Get rid of the treetops and the shrubbery and the back water line so that we have. Water line. This needs to be shit. I'm in the wrong layer. Hold on. This is where I need to be. And then we can ungroup. I'm going to go far water. And we can change this name to drop this into a separate folder. We're doing folder management here. Let's see. Right reflection. There we go. That'll do it. There. Okay, now that we have this back and established, I think what I want to do is get my window back. Thank you. Let's do this. I'm going to actually do this. I'm going to grab this chunk here and pop up. Let's merge that group. I'm going to copy, paste separately, and then let's, yeah, that should do. What is going on? Right, because I copied it, stupid. Cool, okay, great. So let's grab both of those. We're going to add the actual background stuff back in, and now we're going to shift this down as we had done. Where is that line? Here, roughly. And then we can take this and let's try doing a skew. Hold on. Let's go to here. We're gonna go free transform, and we're going to go skew, so we can grab this and bend it so that lines up there. And then we can duplicate the layer so we can warp tool. So I want to warp this shape around for the like that ish. Roughly like that, and then copy paste, free transform, skew, there, roughly like that. Right reflection. Now we can, between the actual ump here and this below bit, does that feel right? Let's take the whole thing and give it a little bit of a free transform. Skew. Let's skew it just a little bit. That feels about right. Cool. Let's do that. Now we're going to scratch in our water line. So we're going to go down to here where we literally have a line on the water. I'm going to scratch in similar. So let's go back to our round brush. And good morning, everyone that is checking through on the channel. I really appreciate y'all kicking through and saying hi. I actually need to put this on top of right. There we go. So we can be along the water line here. I need it to be whiter. Significantly whiter. Let's go up to something like this. Yeah, that feels much better. I'm adding in little white marks across here. This is gonna be like the ripple of where the, oops, I'm offline. This should be more like here. And this all needs to curve around more like this. There we are. Now we're back on task. Because this is our actual water line here. So if I do little line breaks like this, I can then go back in and smudge on them. Let's grab our smudge brush. Just going to use our cloud. There, I want to just pull on it a little bit to thin it down to make it less of a line and more of a wisp. The subtle curve here that we're working is going to be really important because your eye's going to look for that. Your eye's going to look for how is the curvature of this shape? How does it recede? What clues do we have that I can tick off on my checklist that is going to help us resolve that this is a curving surface? That is a very subtle curve that your eye will acknowledge and check off, and it will then no longer have to consider, is this geometrically sound in a three-dimensional space? And once it's content, it stops fighting you over it, and it just accepts, hey, this is the image. And then it starts translating in good faith. It's like there's enough background, there's enough base physics in this piece that I can relax, that it is good. And so I can relax and lean into enjoying any subtleties that exist in the piece and explore it. That's basically what your eye is looking to do. The more you can forget about the technique and just enjoy the results, the more your eye is, you're just going to enjoy the piece, the higher quality of the piece you think is going to be. And the first way to disarm your sensibility of realism or not is to comply with just basic physics. Things become less saturated and smaller and less detailed as you move away from the camera and perspective. Form and shape are different things. Shape is the two-dimensional plane of like what a square is, and a form is the three-dimensionality of what the cube is. The square is one face of the cube. Basic geometric terms, but for those out there not familiar or forgotten. The form is the actual shape in space that you're attempting to duplicate in a two-dimensional surface. And so we're trying to turn a cube into a square by doing forced perspective and different quote-unquote perspective tricks like reducing saturation, reducing detail, reducing size as you move away on the camera. These are known techniques that work in a 2D plane to make the eye feel like it's observing a 3D space. It's just clever painting. So when you're actually building the piece, you have to keep in mind what in this space that we're creating is actually a three-dimensional form. And each of those forms have shapes on them as well. So you have to draw the shape on a form at the perspective and angle of the form in the two-dimensional space. You see, it's kind of Inception in that it's layering shapes on top of shapes at different angles to imply form and volume. So it's a fun trick. That is the trick of illustration. And once you're able to convince the eye with proper laws of physics, good texturing, context, it's able to relax. And the more the eye relaxes, the more you as an observer appreciate and enjoy the piece that you're looking at, because you're not nitpicking it. Because you don't need to nitpick it, because the artist took care of it well enough to make it look good enough for your eye to appreciate the style of execution. When something's done poorly, the eye begins to scrutinize. It's hard for you to let go of a piece that you find to be flawed and ignore the flaw and enjoy the piece. You can appreciate aspects of the piece, but you have a really hard time of literally enjoying the piece. Or or maybe to say admiring a piece. That's very difficult if you're being critical of it. And that not only works in painting compositions, but that also applies to entire books. Like the books that I make that are linked down below are chock full of my art and gaming ideas, and each page complements the illustrations and the text complement each other to form a more cohesive unit. But like if the rules suck, people will appreciate the art, but they won't love it. Right? If they hate the art, but the mechanics are good, they'll appreciate the mechanics. They could fall in love with mechanics and just not appreciate the art. Those two things are actually kind of separated, to be true. But if they're both good, but if the art is both good and the mechanics are sound, then it's something that somebody can truly enjoy, either just reading or using at their table. So that's the sort of mentality that's going on here. Let's add in that line back in just to thicken that up a little bit. So we're going to futz around with this for a few more minutes, and then we're going to do some closer reflection ripples, water ripples, since we're hitting the shoreline here. And I'm imagining this as an inlet, like water coming in through here and then circulating in here and potentially heading out that way around the bend. Or even off this direction, because this is also off bend. So this is all going to be concealed. So we don't know which way this water goes. We just know it's dumping in here. And so that allows us to create some current that's going to splash across the shore here and then create a blurble effect. So we get to add little blurble effects here. We only have distant lines back here to show reflection and ripples in the water because it's calming down by the time it gets this far back away. So we'll have to do a curve like this that eventually flattens out to be able to line up with the far horizon here. But in the meantime, we can do fun little curve effects like this. Anyway, we'll figure it out. We're almost there. Stay on target. That's next on the block. Taking this shoreline color basically and dropping it into the water. To create that ripple curvature. And then once we have that locked in, the eye will be convinced, okay, this is moving water. I'm content with that. And it'll stop worrying about what's the physics here, and it'll start translating in good faith on your behalf. And this is too high up, so I need to free transform, and we're going to skew. And there we go. And then free transform and skew again. Transform selection. Skew yet again. There we go. Okay, got that curve figured out. Next, we're going to add another layer so we can start adding more water. This is what we get, folks. So I'm going to hit save here because the system's locking up a little bit. I want to save before disaster strikes. Should be, there we go. Let's see. So the water comes in, and it's going to hit. There we go. Yeah, that's about right. So we're going to go like this. Get a round brush here at 100%. Let's grab this color. I have to be mindful of these ridge lines here to not accidentally merge them in with a ripple line. So I'm going to ripple like that.
And then let's thin that out a little bit more like this. That doesn't feel quite right. That feels good. I like that. And we have this line over here, so that's going to create a break. Yeah, let's just leave that broken. I'm messing with that, and I shouldn't be. Let's bring this in here like more like this. I'm trying to find a smooth line, so give me a second here. I'm going to do this a number of times. There we go. That feels pretty good. Hits the water here, and it ripples. Yeah, it ripples around like that. Ooh, that's good. We can bring this around. Hold on. Bring this around like that. Let's hit that line. There we go. That's too much. Need to flatten that out. It's not so bad. And then I'm going to get rid of that extension there. And then we can, again, flatten out this line so that it starts to match up with these straight lines further back here. That's a horrible angle. Hold on. Nope, that's too much. We'll find it. We'll find it. This is a skill challenge, so let me be skilled. Let's get rid of that and just do, there we go. And then we'll take this line here, cutty pasty. We did the wizard last night for the color mana spell point variant rules, converting the 5.5e classes in D&D from the spell slots in 8 schools of magic into the color magic paradigm. And boy, oh boy, that's heaps of fun. I love doing. Let's do another line in here. I love doing mana mechanics. They're so fucking fun. Yeah, let's skew that a little bit. Free transform. Let's skew like this. Let's see how that treats it. And then let's do free transform. It's a bit of a NERP. That's not bad. Let's push it over a little bit more. Ooh. Let's stretch it out. Free transform. Pull out a little bit. That'll help reduce the angle. There, yeah. I think that's going to work. Something like that. Needs to feel... Yeah, that's pretty good. Nope, I don't like that. Let's do, I need a disruption here. It hits, it curves, something like that. I'm trying to find it. Hold on. There we go. Let's go with that. Yeah, that feels pretty good. It's nice little lines. It's just a little bit of motion. It's not going to overwhelm the piece. So we have those in place. We have that there. We have this block here. And we have that back line there. We need to break this one up into like that. So we have further, we're going to switch these around. So we have that short piece. We've got this line here. We've got this midline here. Yeah, that's good. And then we got the foreground here. Perfect. Okay, great. So let's work the furthest back. That's that ridge line there. That one is already sufficiently worked. Now we can work this piece of it. So let's zoom in. And again, just using the same techniques, we're just... Oof, it's a curve. It's so tricky. Shoot for the stars, Kearney. There you go. And I got to smudge it out to make it less sharp, but it can't be too fuzzy, otherwise it doesn't feel like water ripple anymore. Delicate balance. Let's take this one and bend it around the corner here. Thin that down a little. Stupid little details that are important. I'll work that in there into a line. That feels pretty good. And again, I want to fade that out. I'm going to need to sharpen this line. I'm doing a fade here for the angle, but I have to paint over it. Let's do this. Let's go copy. Nerp. Get rid of that. Blurb. Let's grab this. Let's try doing this. Let's do copy, paste, 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 paste. Merge those layers. And we'll thin this down a little bit. There we go. That feels pretty good. Let's bring this around. We'll erase that. Let's bring this. Around just subtle like that. That feels good. Yeah, that feels real good. We can take that line that we just brought in. We have another line back here that we need to bring in. So I want to take this and I'm going to increase the smudge. I want to take this and extend it. And yeah, it feels okay. I'm going to fuzz that out a little bit. I don't want to keep this as light. I want to darken this up a little bit. So I'm okay with this here. This is just helping smooth it out a little bit to make that curve a little more elegant. And let's yeesh. Yeah, let's grab this. And let's free transform and warp. That's pretty good. Okay, I'm going to work with a light eraser to thin it down a little bit. Thin that down, sculpt it a little bit with some smudge lines here to get that curve a little smoother. Smooth hands, Kearney. Smooth hands. You'll find it. Oof, that was close. Smooth hands. There we go. Good. I just want to thin that down a little bit just to make it fit. Smooth. Smooth makes fast. Slow makes smooth, smooth makes fast. There we go. And let's make this curve work by smoothing that one out. And that's not bad. That's too much. It's too far. Too wrong. There we go. Good line. Hit it with the eraser a little bit to thin it down some, straighten it out. Oh, that was actually a pretty good line. Let's keep that. There we go. This is working out. You never really know it's going to work out until you figure it out, and then you know it works out. You have an idea. You don't know if it's actually going to work until you get there, but it feels so good when it actually works out. See, now we've got that same straight line, and that is working great with the rest of the background. So we've successfully bent and merged this into it. So we're going to drop the opacity on this a little bit just to cut down on its brightness. Very nice. And this one here we've been working on. Let's keep working this one over here. Definitely don't have any reason for. Oh yeah. Hold on. Let's get rid of that. Delete. Find your line. Find your line, Kearney. Not bad. We'll take that. We'll take it. So we'll curve around here like this. Ooh, good mark. Starting to warm up a little bit. It's got, what, like about 40 minutes left? Yeah, only took about 20 minutes for us to get into a precise space where I can hit angles. It's not bad. There, hitting angles. Tracing along here, just pulling up this line here to smooth it out a little bit, desaturate it, thin it down, obfuscate it. There, good mark. Good. And we'll lighten up the opacity on this one as well to thin down the lighting so that it merges better with further back curve. But we just got to sculpt it a little bit here to get that angle right. That's looking really, really good. I really want to thin down this angle here. God, yeah, that was great. Good line, Kearney. You're hitting your marks. Don't get cocky. Nice. We'll thin down that line a little bit there. This shit's intense, man. Doing curved water ripple like this is just fucking crazy. Come on. Come on, you got it, Kearney. You got it. You can do this. One more shot. Almost there. There you go. Good job. 4 goes, not bad. It's not only starting and ending at the proper points, but it's also getting the right curve to match in between without any overly dramatic ripples. It has to be a smooth line that's curving at the right angle at the right point and still hitting its marks at both the start and end of the line. It's just, oof. It's a bit of a skill shot. See, like I'm hitting it, but I get lazy at, there it is. I get lazy at that last bit, so it trails off because I'm not following through. Like in golf, you have to follow through the arc of the swing, and that's very much true with painting. If you don't follow through on your arc, you end up elongating or clipping at an unnatural angle. In digital, you have the luxury of being able to erase and replace in individual layers what you're working on, so you can afford to overextend a line beyond where it's supposed to be for the sake of the curve, knowing that you can erase the excess, like the extra line that you don't need. But that extra line helps show the follow-through that you had in the segment where you needed to add it. It's like right now I'm trimming down the excess that I don't need off of this curved bit over here and making sure that it sculpts and merges into the rest of the curve that we already have established. There we go. So I want to, ooh, that was a pretty good one, but I think I can do a little bit better. There we go. Define that as a little bit better. We're almost done with this curve. I'm just trying to, there it is. Keep that line intact. It's so tricky for me to keep that in that point there. Let's thin that along there. I'm going to have to hit this whole thing with opacity here in a moment. We're at the amount of assets that are in the Eberron adventure that I'm going to be publishing probably later this month. I'm already over 150 assets that I've processed for use in VTT, like creature tokens, maps, tiles, like map tiles, like to build your own corn mazes and dungeons. There is dungeon dressing, literally like 150 tiles so far, and we still have probably over 200 tiles by the time we're done. But I'm starting to get really close to the end. It is possible, TM, for me to have this adventure published by Tuesday next week, maybe even over the weekend. I doubt over the weekend. But we're getting really, really close. We're almost done with all the dungeon tiles, like the terrain, and like the water hazards, and the razor vines, like all those little tile tokens that you can build your own maps with. We almost have those done. So once we have all of those done, and we have like all the NPC and creature tokens and all the handouts made. So now we're down to just the last few dungeons that we need to drop into proper scaling and process for virtual tabletop. Almost there. So next week is realistic for us to have it finished. Well, I don't know, man. That was a pretty good line. That is a pretty good line. Let's keep that for the moment. Curve across. Let's grab this. Let's erase that. That looks horrible now. Not quite. Not quite what we're looking for. Not what we're looking for. Not what we're looking for. Not what we're looking for. Closer. That's pretty good. We can work with that. There, that's starting to feel better. Let's trim that down. That's pretty close. We'll take it. There we go. This is looking, boy, this is a challenge today, isn't it? That just has to be smooth. It's looking pretty good. It's off just, there we go. That was actually a really good line. Let's thin this up a little bit more. Not bad. We have to thin it down. That's better. Let's use a very mild eraser and just trim along here, just to thin it down a little bit more. Good. And let's grab this back line here again, because I think I can thin that one down. Good. That all feels really good. Really, really happy with that. And so that's our midline there. And here is our foreground. Let's make sure we get that right. And we're going to grab this curve here and work it around. I'm actually going to try to leave this one largely vague if I can. Almost there. There we go. Good line. I'm going to use a gentler smudge brush through here. There. That feels pretty good. That felt like a pretty good line. Let's curve these into each other so it softens. Like that. No, that's a little off. Like that. Ooh, that's pretty good. Let's take it. There. And then we'll smooth this out. Good. Yeah, let's just leave that like that. Double down on that. There. That feels good. Let's merge that down. Fudge. Nope, that's not good enough. Better. We need better. Oh, that feels pretty good. That feels really good. Cool. Not good enough. Ooh. Not bad, Kearney. My aim is on target now. I've not, don't get cocky, but I feel like I've dialed in pretty good. Unfortunately, we're about to end this. That is pretty good. Ooh, God, look at that mark. Good work, Kearney. You're on fire right now, my man. Don't get cocky. Ah, there it is. Let's thin this down a little bit. Good. All right, cool. We got our ripples going. I think that's enough. I actually like how the mountain lines are kind of blending in with the ripples. It's creating fake effects for us. I like that. So I'm content with that. And so let's sew that up. We'll go right, water ripples. And now we're into left. So here we are over on left. We can actually deconstruct the right embankment so that we can build the left embankment. So I'm gonna scrub my face for a second. Clear the smudge from my ears. It's yeah, we got about 25 minutes left today, so we're almost done. We got this left-hand side over here to do. And I'm thinking about, I was thinking about like some sort of a temple up here, but now I'm thinking more like a dragon's lair and maybe having a dragon in the sky or something up here. Like this space feels a little empty. I think like maybe having a dragon kick across here, something maybe like that. I don't know. We'll see. No promise, but we'll see. So let's deconstruct the right bank. We'll take our darkest color and we'll get our highlight here. I'm going to raise that up a little bit more. Let's just be bold. Let's just paint over this guy. Actually, there. Let's build this out. Makey shapey. That'll do. Let's put some, let's add another layer here for some highlights to help just define the shape of the thing and for us to create some topography there. And then we'll grab our smudge tool. It'll be at a high percentage. Just working this into the canvas. Just making some highlights that will then promptly cover over with shrubbery and grass. But again, we're helping establish shape. Like this, for instance, since we're creating this curve here, we can cut this shape out here to make like a little step. There we go. We'll keep with this. We know the sun's coming in from this angle this way. Kind of like alighting in this direction. Maybe more, a little bit more like that. So let's keep that in mind while we're putting in our lighting. Like this should actually be a little bit more highlighted, facing towards that angle. There we go. That's going to work. So let's then fade this in here. Just work this into the color to blend it out. I can actually curve this lighting towards us a little bit more. Yeah, I think I'm good with that. Actually, let's scuff it up a little bit more. Let's add a drop in here. Add a little bit more interest. Just shape it up a little. There, let's do that. And now we're going to drop this into the terrain a little bit better, I think. Merge down. Yeah, I think that's going to work. Cut along there. Just create these little step effects. That'll give us this will provide us some inference on angles of grass, since we're building these little smooth down, overgrown steps, as it were. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We got 20 minutes left. Thank God. Yeah. So we can get the basics land in here, and now we get to add the trees, and then shrubbery, and then rocks, and then grass tufting, and then the wildflowers. I feel like I'm missing out on texture, though. Yeah, let's go with this for now. Let's switch to our grass brush. Huh. How do I want to... Hold on. When are you going to break apart? There you are. Cool. Let's curve that out again because we played with the shape. Good. What happens if we crank that up? Grab that as a highlight color. That might work. Actually, let's curve that down a little bit, make that more. A bit more like that, and then there. Yeah. And now we can drop this down and then merge that. Now I'm gonna leave it separated just for the hell of it. Now let's check our color. That's decent, and that's decent. Good, so now we can look at our lines over here and start dotting those. Yeah, this is actually there, let's do that. And we're going to grab the same brush shape with the eraser here. And we're going to do a mild, like 30% erase, so I can tap at this grass and start to fade it into the environment. Like that. And then chop at it to thin it down. Go. Right now we're just filling in the space with a lighter color grass, and then we're going to go over a lot of it with the darker color grass that we have. I was hoping I have enough time to get the texturing done. And then we'll start in on trees and shrubbery and shit like that next week. So we'll probably have this piece done. This is Friday. We don't stream art on Saturday. So I reckon we'll pick this back up on Monday, and we'll probably have it done Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. And then we'll move on to the next piece. So with any luck, I think I'm doing a commission next week after I finish this piece. There we go. I like this. It's really flattening it out. Let's see if I can zoom out a little bit. Yeah, I like this. This feels really friendly. It's forward facing. It was like sideward / sort of like facing away from us, which is still happening over here towards this edge. But we have enough going on. Get rid of all that shit. Thank you. But yeah, we have enough going on here that we can have it afford to face the camera as well as away from it. Fade that in. Again, I'm just tapping away here with the grass. Just filling in the angles, the shape of it, and then erasing to fade it down, to push it in. And we'll just do this a number of times with multiple layers until we're content with it. And then we'll move on to the tree line, and then we'll come back through over this with shrubbery and wildflowers, and I don't know, it might be a little gauche to have another stone. We already have these rocks poking out over here, currently off screen. There we go. Now that's feeling really good. Ah, man, that's feeling really, really good. I don't need to worry about tufting grass or anything like that right now. That's going to be on the when we get into the final dressing where we're doing the wildflowers and high ground stuff. That's when we'll worry about actually having like sprouts and shoots and stuff break that silhouette. I don't need to worry about that right now. I'm going to add another layer in here though for adding in some more grass like this. And I can thin that down a little bit. I'm just trying to break up the texture a little bit. Get some contrasting angles going so that I can make the grass feel more chaotic and more like naturally growing grass instead of just being a replicated brush stroke. If I layer this stuff in enough and erase and add, erase and add, erase and add, the amount of texture eventually just bleeds into itself, and again the eye will just give up. It'll just accept that this is the tarmac, the base ground grit of this hill, and it'll absorb it and be okay with it, and then you can just appreciate and enjoy whatever it is that this piece has to offer. But we're doing this on a layer above the grass layer that we just did to keep them separated, so that as I erase this dark, the light tufts will, the little light clumps of grass will poke through. So I'm going to fade that a little bit, and now I'm going to come in through with another layer. I'm going to hit save real quick, keep myself from getting in trouble. And then dot across that and erase it a little bit here and there. And again, restoring the same curvature that we had. You want to establish the shape, the form of the object in the space by using the curves to define the topography of it, the curvature of it, its shape. But then we want to have contrasting angles that break that, so that we can add to the shape or the faces of that object. So, and then we layer over it again with accurate topography for the curvature. So we establish shape, we establish the form, the curvature of the object, and then over that we put a layer of contrasting angles to create texture and grit. And then we go over it again with proper topography to reestablish the angles. And the end result is a layering effect. Bob Ross can do it with one pass when he's doing his grass, because the hairbrushes that he uses, his 10,000 horsehair brushes, they can create all of that in one stamp. But the tools ironically, the digital tools that we work are less nimble and a lot more limited than what those handheld, actual like meat space brushes are capable of producing. So Photoshop and digital tools in general are inferior tools to oil painting and just the actual brush styles that you can do. You can do so much more, like once you train yourself, actual physical space painting is far more agile, and you're capable of expressing much more creative and organic shapes just naturally and more efficiently once you understand how. But in my case, I don't see color. So for me to work in color, I need digital so I can get accurate color references off of photographs and other paintings that match the values that I want, the levels of light and dark, and then trusting that the other artists that do see in color got the correct colors to use. Most of the time, especially when I'm using a photograph, it's usually going to be correct unless it has some sort of veneer. A sepia tone, a sepia that's like a color wash across the whole piece. Occasionally, I won't notice that there's a sepia effect, and it will modify all the colors, but I've gotten pretty good at being able to use my RGB up here in the corner to give me accurate. I know I'm working in a very desaturated green right now because the green mark is barely above the red and the blue. So that's going to be a very desaturated green, but I'm going to punch up color overall in the piece when we mirror the colors that we had over on the other side and we have it back here on the horizon. Again, working this into the canvas, increasing the size a little bit. There you go, break that up. Work it into the canvas, add it on and erase it a little bit, again, just to create the curvature of the shape of the place, add volume and add form. There we go. That is a decent little grassy knoll. I'm pretty happy with this. So let's merge all of let's merge this mess down. And now we've got this underlayer. Oh God, yeah, like dropping that feels good. That feels pretty good. I like that. Nice. And again, we'll cut back through here with yeah, I'm going to actually stack up on top here real quick. Yeah, it feels really, really good. There we go. And what is it? Okay, great. So we have a little bit of time. We can start. So I'm happy with that. I'm content with that grassy knollishness. Here is our trees over here. So we want to duplicate that effect over here. So we're going to call this grassy embankment. Grassy embankment, very good. That's a base color. I can get rid of that. And now we can go back to our round brush so we can add in a trunk. Hitting save. Yeah, let's be here. Do that and that. I don't like the curve on that. Let's do that and that. We'll start with 2 trees. We'll probably end up with more. We might actually be able to steal some of these back here and drop them up here. So let's start there. We'll grab this here, and I like that. I like that hitting the sky over here. I like it maxing out. Let's drop it a little bit. We'll take this one back here, and we'll raise this one up a smidge to ride the edge along that cusp. This one will be a little bit more foregroundy. I like that. Okay, cool. So let's work the duplicate the layer. Duplicate those layers. Merge. Duplicate that layer. I was only using a 32% strength, so I have to quadruple down on these real quick to make it the proper darkness. Merge those down. Okay, great. So we're back. And now let's grab the proper brush. We're going to grab our conifer foliage brush here, and we're going to thin it down. Like that, and then we're just going to dot back and forth. I'm going to grab that same brush at 100%. So I can trim at that a little bit. The trunk should not be on the same layer, but I like the shape, so it's too late now. Alas, earwax. I'll fill that in. And now I want to start shallowing that angle. Increase the size of the brush a little bit. And then we get into this flattening point here. And then we start to curve down. Actually, I did that wrong. I want to widen this. And I want to bulk that up here like that. There we go. And we can have the lean on the tree downhill a little bit here to imply shape, and it's giving it a little bit more form, a curvature here to help match the curvature that we see going on over here. We have more curvature like this. That feels really good. I'm going to thicken this up a little bit, add some more. That feels pretty good. Let's just fill this in a little bit more. We want to get rid of some of this leading edge stuff over here to help break up the recurring patterns. We want recurring patterns, but we don't want you to notice the recurring patterns. So we have to use them and then destroy evidence of them. There we go. There. Okay, yeah, that feels really, really good. Let's add a layer over that. We're gonna make that a tree. We're gonna make that a tree. Let's go over here and grab some of our highlight color. That's very sharp. Thin the brush down. Oh shit, there's my timer. All right, we'll finish up. We're gonna finish up the lighting on this one, and then we'll go for the day. So we're just gonna dot in some highlights in here. And we're starting to get lower on the tree, so I'm going to add more curve. Chop away at that a little bit to create some variety. I'm going to chop this up a little bit. So we can't, so each brush has to be the same. Each stipple is the exact same shape. Again, when Bob does it, he has the infinite number of like 10,000 horsehairs on a brush that every time he hits it, just has to change his angle a little bit, and it's going to create a billion variations. It's never the same brush stroke twice. While ours is always the same brush stroke every time. So for us to be able to build that inherent chaos into the foliage that we're painting, we add and erase, add and erase, add and erase, so that and using the same shape of the eraser as the brush, it creates a consistent positive negative space that's all the same shape. So all we need is a good brush shape that feels like foliage, and then just replicate it, just spam it over and over and over again until it fills in the space with recurring pattern that, again, your eye just gives up and it just accepts, yep, that's tree foliage, I'm good with that. See, you can't really see the replicating pattern inside of here, and I need to thicken the density in here to help block out some light. Until we get to about there, then it can start thinning out in the sky, which is appropriate. But there we go. See, there's so much chaos going inside here, the eye isn't easily pulling out replicated patterns. You can see them a little bit here and here, but that's roughly okay. But I'm going to flip this over and hit that so we can break away those shapes a little bit. But this part here, I don't have to worry about this so much because it's going to be behind this other tree that we're next to. This is the only area over here. This right-hand juncture is the only place I really need to worry about. And I'm just flipping the brush over and using the backwards version of this to create these little down curves. That helps break up the shape a little bit more. Again, it's a lot. This is something that Bob can do in just a gesture. It's done. We don't have that flexibility, so we have to adapt. And that feels pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and hit pause here for now. When we pick up next time, we're going to do the other tree here. We might be able to squeeze like another guy like poking out over this way. Hello. And then we'll do our shrubbery here at the base. And then we'll add in some type of like maybe some more rockiness. I don't know. And then we'll do a wildflower growing along here. No pixel selected. That's fine. Let's go back to our other side here. So next we add in the shrubbery, and then we add in any roughness, and then we add in high grass, and then wildflowers on top of it. So this will mimic this when we're done. It'll be similar. And we see those wildflowers and high grass back here underneath this shrubbery and these trees further back here in the horizon. Once we get this filled in, it'll be a decent little piece. So this has been a lot of fun to build. I'm going to go ahead and hit the brakes for now. I'm going to be back Saturday morning, Seattle time. Well, if we're talking East Coast time, I should be on like around 9 a.m. East Coast time, and then at 12:30 p.m. East Coast time on Saturday, we'll be playing Strixhaven Mage Tower PvP combat at level 14 on my Discord server, link down below. And then I'll be back on Monday morning to continue with this piece. And then Monday, I think we're going to get Warlock and the Artificer color mana conversion done for the color mana system. We should get that done on Saturday morning. And then Monday night and moving forward, we'll be back into Spelljammer Combat and Exploration using the Kaiju Mecha Bastion Spelljammer Eberron campaign mechanics that we've been building out a campaign with. We'll get back into building that. Yeah, that's it. And maybe by Friday next week, we'll be ready to publish the Eberron adventure. Super close. And then we'll get into building other books, like updating the spellcasting for Spelljammer, updating the color mana spell list that we worked on last month, and then getting into building out the PDFs for the individual character classes. Yeah. All right, that's it, guys. I'm out of here. I will see you all on Monday. And no, I'll see you all tomorrow morning. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you on the other side. Cheers.